Anjum, Lily, Manjusha, Maunika,
Good afternoon,
and
ma'am.
good afternoon, Vijaya. I can see many of you here. Yes, there was some technical issue that I was unable to immediately, log in. Right away, we are going for the first block. I think you all have the textbook with you. I don't want to waste our time now. And so, if you remember, we completed the first block, starting with arrival of English in India. Is it my voice clear, my dears?
Yes,
Is it
ma'am.
Yes,
okay?
ma'am.
Yeah. If you find any difficulty, just let me know. Okay. You can even send the message. I can see your messages as well. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Second point is, so we started with today we are going with the second block, that is Indian poetry till independence. Okay. So with the just like feedback, or glance of what we have done from last 2 weeks online, we started with arrival of English in India, and how Indian prose in English, who are the writers, and early 20th century fiction, focusing on R.K. Narayan's Dark Room and Rajarau's Kantapura. So this we completed, right? So today we are starting Indian poetry and romantic tradition and 19th century poets, including Henry de Rossi and Torutar. Early 20th century poets, Arabindo and Sarojini Naidu, right? Okay. So what is the page number for this unit 6? Some of you can respond to me. Indian
37, ma'am.
poetry.
37.
New textbook 37,
37.
ma'am.
Yeah, new
37.
text. Yeah, new textbooks 37 and the old print is 41. Okay. So take the unit 6, and this is today we are going to touch upon two prominent writers as well, and at the same time the poetry till independence, that means before 1947, who are the writers, that's what we are trying to see. Okay. So the unit introduces the earliest Indian poets in colonial period. These poets were one of the first educated in Indian, especially English language, and and especially their literary style is British. There is no influence of Indian English here, because they are the first generation writers from Indian scenario. But they are writing something about India. Influence is all English, right? So Britishers' influence was there in their literary styles, not the content what they wrote, but the literary styles. Okay. So the unit shows the link between these poets and their English predecessors and counterparts. Indians have begun writing prose in last 18th century throughout 19th century. We see number of Indian writers writing their letters, memoir, treatise in English language, but poetry appears late on the scene, because poetry needs lot of expertise, and there is one should have command over the language to write poetry, because vocabulary is one, and what kind of meaning that is going to be specially focused on poetry is completely different from prose. So they attempted poetry little late, but first it was letters, because the simple form of writing, and it can be lucid in writing. I mean, lucid way of writing letters. That means it will be in a conversational mode, and sometimes it's a memoir. That means they're just the form of epistolary novel, we call it. Like epistolary means a novel written in the form of letters or something like that, which is that's the first thing they attempted. So letters, and they started with memoir in the sense, whatever that has happened, I mean, in the memory of that people, we remembered something and we started to write about it, right? So memoir and treatise in English language, but poetry appears late on the scene. So it was not in the first attempt, but after some time, after some establishment, Indian writers started writing the poetry. And what kind of poems they used to write? So the poems are not from English background. Maybe the literary genre is British influential, but the content again is like Sarojini Naidu is writing on Bangle Sellers. So Bangle Sellers is something which is purely native to Indian culture and traditions, but the genre may be an imitation of British literary form. but the content definitely it is Indian, right? So we see the first set of poems appearing in the Anthology of Poetry published in 1840. So we are starting with 1840. It's not in detail, but we can understand the context they wrote, right? So David Richardson selections of the British poem from the time of Chaucer to present day. So Chaucer, the first, what is the Chaucer's work? Anyone remember? What is the Chaucer's
Canterbury
work?
Tales.
Very good, Canterbury Tales. Yes, so that's a poetry that we known. I mean, it's known for all of us. Like why there? It's a very long poem. It's not a small poem, and different kinds of characters come. And Canterbury Tales is specifically related to the church, and the characters are portrayed around the religious beliefs, and there is some kind of a reasoning, and lot of Christian influence is there as such as a religion. So we can see that. So Chaucer to the present day, that's what the title, and 1840 it got published. The volume included English poets writing on India, but also for the first time poetry by Indians. So this is something like Britishers are writing about us. It's not first hand information, but whatever they thought Indians are, they started writing. But one peculiar thing is that Indian writer is also included, and his name is Kashi Prasad Ghosh, Henry Desrosiers. Ghosh and Desrosiers therefore represents the official presence of native poets in the English literary canon, right? So this is something like they used to write about us. Like in the contemporary India, we see people write about tribal literature. It's writing about tribal literature. Basically, tribal literature is not literature, a civilized and a urban poet or an urban person going and visiting them, and they are trying to see from their angle how the tribal people are. But if a tribal person is writing from his own, I don't think the same kind of perception will be there. For example, if Britishers are writing about us, all Indians are snake charmers to them. That means we are very superstitious, and we believe in colors, and we pray monkey god. That means we pray, we are snake charmers. So this kind of poetry, because they never know the cultural background, or they never wanted to understand them, but they used to think like they are the people who got the reform in our life, in our Indian lives, not specifically from one part of India, but different parts of India got lot of influence from that point of view, right? So, but they wanted to portray that we are writing about Indians, and so they included as a tokenism. What is tokenism? Anyone can tell me what is tokenism? Anyone know about this term, tokenism? Write down the word. If you don't have the paper, take the book and paper with you. Tokenism. T-O-K-E-N. Are you there? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Tokenism. Okay, this is something like you refer the dictionary and then find out the exact meaning. But at the same time, I want to tell you, this is a form of tokenism in the sense they don't want to encourage, but just for the sake of namesake, they will include that. Right? And they tell like, okay, everything is Indian, and they make fun of us also because they are not serious about us, but they won't want to portray that these are the people. Like every time, many people believe just because Indians are, I mean, Britishers came, we got railway lines. Because of Britishers, we are educated. Because of Britishers, science and technology is improved. Because of Britishers, we got the canals. So all these in the name of Britishers, like now we do a lot of beautification of the city. They destroy all the mountains, and they destroy the ponds, and they destroy a lot of natural habitats, and finally they say like, okay, now we are not interested in any natural habitat or naturally growing trees, but they want to make a park. Is there a difference between a forest and a park? What do you say? Any one of you kindly respond. Is there a difference between a forest and a artificial man-made national normal park?
Yes, ma'am. Park is we man-made.
Okay.
And forest is by nature.
Okay, can you define again? Because what is man-made? How the trees are grown in the forest, and how we see trees and plants and ornamental plants in the park. I mean, we are not finding fault, but we wanted to see the difference. So, how do you find plants in the park?
In
Park,
systematic manner.
they are grown by the gardener,
Mm.
horticulturist.
In systematic manner.
In a systematic manner.
They
Even
are
if
selected, ma'am. The plants in park, they are selected. But when it comes to forest, it's natural. It comes on their own, and you find
Original
all
and
varieties of plants there.
Yes, yes. See, all these answers are correct. When it comes to the park, it is chosen, and the creeper don't have the independence wherever it want to creep. Like for example, a creeper is there, or you find aloe vera kind of things, or anything for that matter. The gardener is going to give some place to the plant, and they, according to the gardener's idea, it should grow. If it is not growing properly, or if it is overgrown, then the horticulture will take a scissor and they'll cut it off, right? And it looks very beautiful because it is organized, right? But from the plant point of view, if you see in the forest, they are natural. No one gives the water to them. They are strong. They come out in their own shape. It looks beautiful. The smell is different, and lot of biodiversity. That means lot of reptiles, snakes, rats, birds. Naturally, they take in the park, we find very few birds, very few insects. But when you go the same thing to the forest, you don't know the name of that particular. It is something like, everything is accommodated in forest. But we are afraid in the forest because everything is a surprise for us. Whereas, in the name of the beautification, we get certain parks in our own places. But can the creeper grow as per the spirit, or as it grows? Will the gardener will keep quiet if it is growing like wherever the direction it wants to grow? Can the plant have the independence?
No, ma'am.
No. And second thing, can it go? I mean, it's something like if the squirrel is there, it will eat some kinds of nuts, and other nuts it will be taking and digging something inside the earth, and it will be digging deep inside the earth, and then it will close it. Then naturally the new plant will come. It's a form of regenerating the seeds and all that stuff. Then I want to ask you and think about this question. Are you with me, my dear friends? Are you with me? I want to think about
Yes,
this.
ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
So, which one, if you want to select something, by destroying the forest or in and around, many of you are in Hyderabad. Gradually, we can see lot of mountains, small ponds are occupied. That's the reason we get lot of flood. And many mountains are destroyed in the name of technology and in the name of expansion. Second point, you find the forest which is hardly visible for us. So what do you think, if you want to prefer to go for a I mean, if someone says like, okay, here there is 20 to 30 acres of land and a small forest is there, very small forest, maybe 50 to 60 acres of land, there a big multinational company is coming and a mall is coming and a beautiful park is also going to be established. So which one you want to vote? If you get if you are going to become a part of that program, you want to destroy that natural place and make it into artificial park, or you want to continue that as a natural habitat? What do you think? Think about this. What we are doing now. See, whenever you are reading a textbook, you should always remember, and it should be applicable to our life as well. That's a very crux of literature. So to remember, everything that comes artificial has a limitation, whereas natural habitat has got no limitation, and you can't see that ordered beauty in that, but it is a natural beauty, right? So this is something which is very important, and in the name of beautification, in the name of, that is what tokenism is. That means only as a token they show you. but originally it is not represented, right? Yeah. Next, coming back to next paragraph, De Rosier was the Indo-Portuguese descent and a radical. He inspired a group of youth and founded the Young Bengal movement. So this person, Henry De Rosier, very well known for his Bengal movement, the Young Bengal movement, and admirer of Western education and values. De Rosier was, however, also a nationalist, and his better known poem, The Harp of India, To My Native Land, reveal this stance. So this person is well educated, and he's an Indo-Portuguese. So he's born. I mean, he has got his roots from Portuguese as well. Why Portuguese? Why Portuguese? How? How? Any idea? Because even
colony was formed, ma'am, by Portugal.
Yes,
Colony.
Portugal. Yes, Portugal colonies were there in India before 1757, war, before the war, right? And 1757 is very, very important for the, what is that? Battle of Plassey. You remember? In our school days, yes, Plassey. So that is the place, do remember, because, sometimes literature, history goes hand in hand. Whatever that is portrayed in the literature also is also significant, because it is going to reveal certain facts of the history. In the name of literature, we can see the characters as well. So Henry De Rosier was an educated person, and he had great respect for the Western literatures and valued person. But in spite of all said and done, he admired Britishers, and little bit of nationalism is also there. So his poems are also well known for us. Okay. And next one is Michael Madhusudan Dutt. He is also a Bengal poet, and he wrote the captive ladies, right? So it's a narrative poem titled Captive Ladies. And De Rosier's The Harp of India, 1827, recalls P.B. Shelley's famous Ode to West Wind in 1820. In both cases, the poet functions as a prophet, and De Rosier's case, the poet as prophet is one who serves the national cause. Shelley poet seeks a role where his voice scatters over the mankind. De Rosier writes, of flowers still blooming on the minstrel grave, those hands are cold. But if thy notes divine may be by mortal wakened once again, harp of my country, let me strike the strain. So there is a lot of rhythm and a lot of innate meaning in this poetry. So we can see difference of voice, and why Henry is more specific about. And there is a lot of similarity between Shelley, P.B. Shelley. Shelley is one of the romantic poets, right? You remember that? Wordsworth, Shelley, and other people are part of it. 1 second. Someone is giving a call.
Yes.
Hello. Is it my voice audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah. So when it comes to, I think I just left you somewhere in the nearby Shelley, right? So Shelley and Derozio, these two poets are very, very important to compare because P.B. Shelley, Wordsworth, and Coleridge, Byron, these are romantic poets. And the romantic in the sense they are more into adventure, life, nostalgic feeling, and very young poets. Basically, they died at a very young age, and especially Shelley, Keats, Wordsworth. These are the people whom we always remember for romantic poetry. So Derozio poem, he calls upon himself and seeks the permission of the muses to strike the strain. The country itself is a harp. In Shelley's poem, the poet hopes to the strain that awakens the earth. Both clearly see poetry as an agent of social change, political transformation, but both wish for poetry to reach far and wide. So there is a social transformation that we can see very clearly in Shelley as well as that means there is always a philosophical understanding when you see deep inside the poetry. So Shelley wanted to see, maybe it can be from the point of view, specifically when it comes to earth and or maybe the freedom struggle or something like that. But we cannot coin the word freedom struggle. But freedom is also an innate part of change that we can see, right? The key difference is that Shelley hopes that he becomes one with nature so that his voice spreads over the world. But Derozio speaker has little interest outside the subcontinent. Here, music, art, and poet are treated as an aspect of contemporary condition and colonialism. So there is always a combination of conditions and colonialism, because colonialism is something which was a problem at the time and which is still a problem for many of us, because even after the colonial rule nearly 200 plus years, we are still colonized in our minds. This is a very cautious word I'm using. We are colonized in many ways. It's a stereotypical thinking that we have, right? So here, music, art, and poet are treated as aspect of a contemporary condition. Derozio sees the function of art as a social, not aesthetic alone. So art is not, art is for art's sake, right? So art is for art's sake. That was one theory. Art is for reform. That is another theory. Art should be used, and that's a kind of revolution that we get whenever some revolution is happening. It's not only the struggle, but the pain is portrayed in poetry, in the form of music, in the form of art form. So art is for society. This is what we specifically focus on. And it is indeed important to see Derozio and romantic images, especially if the poet as a prophet for social and political effect. So these are certain poetry. Please do read this. And it is important for you to see how nature, the influence of nature is there in the poetry of Derozio. Okay. Torudutt has remained along with Derozio a popular, you can go for 6.3 nature. I'm just not reading, but I'm just touching upon important points where you can dwell after some time, right? Torudutt has remained along with Derozio a popular figure for students and readers for early Indian poetry in English. Unlike Derozio, she uses Indian subject, especially myth and history, for her poetry in English. So Derozio, Henry Derozio is a male, and Torudutt she died at a very young age. And within that small period, she was able to write very, very meaningful and effective poems. And we see a lot of poems in her direct influence is there in different parts of the country, especially with young people. Both the major Indian poets of 19th century, Derozio and Torudutt, were influenced by English poetry, especially the Romantics and Neoclassicals. In this section, which we shall look into at some of the romantic influences. The influence is visible in significant ways. Nature plays a dominant role in both poets. There is an insistence on linking emotional states of human beings with natural conditions such as seasons, bird songs, the time of the day, the botanical settings, etc. So as a meaning of memory and nostalgia, as a connection of childhood growth and life itself, as an excuse to record emotions, emotional responses of the speaker and the poet, as a space of quiet reflection. See, that's the poetry, especially to Toru Dutt. We can see these reflections, and especially in what way? What kind of romantic reflections of our poems? See, the poem is specifically as a means of memory. That means they look back, and whenever there is a nostalgic feeling, she started to write, and it's always been a quiet reflection. It's not a loud reflection, but a quiet reflection. That means when you keep quiet, you get lot of kind of, lot of thought goes inside, right? You constantly think when you are quiet. It's not in the morning that we'll be thinking, but when you go to bed, before bed, or even in our own lives, morning it is very hectic because day starts, so our regular course, and running to the offices, and it's office work again, hectic, and coming back. But maybe 1 or 2 days, or early in the morning, or when you had a coffee, or when you are having a morning walk, or when you go out with your friends, or when you keep quiet under a tree, or everyone is there at home but you are very alone. So this kind of ideas, this kind of reflection, this kind of quiet nature, we can see in Toru Dutt. Okay, are you with me? Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So yeah, thank you. So this kind of memories we can see in Toru Dutt, and nature and romanticism plays a vital role. So just read this poetry. It's a beautiful poetry. And by reading this unit, you can understand how important for all of us to have a reflection. And we understand even the physical conditions of those days. And it is 1820s and 1840s, very long back, right? Before independence. It's not, we don't even see the spirit of independence, but it's a very, very feeble. It's very feeble. And only it's a voice that an individual, it's not an individual voice, but we can see some collective reflections as well. Okay. So this unit has suggested that the early Indian English poets, especially Indian poets in English, Henry Desrosiers and Toru Dutt, can be compared to the English romantic poets. And it showed how the Desrosiers poems of nationalism, social change echoes Shelley's famous Ode to West Wind. Anyone of you read the Ode to West Wind? You remember any famous lines of Ode to West Wind? See, it's a beautiful poem by P.B. Shelley. What's the expansion of P.B. Shelley? Percy? You know that? Just Google it, okay? Do know about them. How many poets are there? Romantic poets? Shelley, Keats, Wordsworth, Coleridge, Byron. Who is the other poet? Very famous romantic poets, right? Do remember, all poets are important to romanticism because they speak about nature, understanding of nature, quietness of the nature, significance of the life as well. Yes. These are the people who are very, very prominent in romantic poetry. It is more about nature and life, and nature and quietness, and lot of reflection, especially with the natural elements like air, water, streams, green, autumn, ode to west wind. See, wind is something which we don't take them into account. I mean, we don't even consider certain times. But when you sit under the sun in a very hot summer, and a big tree is there, you're walking for a long time, and when you sit down, when you sit under the tree, you feel so good because it's a cool breeze that comes to you, and you feel relaxed. So at that point of time, you may feel, maybe, I don't know, different kinds of winds will be there. Very hot winds will be there. And it's even, metaphysically also we can use certain times. Hot winds are there. Don't go out. It's very cold. Or you can use this kind of uses. He is a very cold person. He never responds. What this cold is not the normal cold, but it's a very symbolically we say that. So these are very important poets, and we can see the difference between that. Okay. Toru Dutt's poetry, we see a quiet romanticism where nature is an ideal place for reflection and thought. So a lot of similarities between romantic poets and Desrosiers and Toru Dutt, especially when it comes to reflection and thought. What is reflection? We think about it. Something happened 1 year back. When you look back, you think like, well, whatever happened at that point of time, maybe you're not happy about it. But now if you see, and if you think about it, your experiential knowledge is growing. So now you're not judging that specific issue, but you wanted to see from an omniscient point of view. Think about it. Why it happened? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm growing as a person, or that happened at that point of time. So that is good for me. Is there anyone who has opened their mic? Lot of sound is coming. Just switch off your mics, please. Okay. So unit 6 is focusing more on Henry and Toru Dutt. Okay. As a continuation of unit 7 also, we can see Derozio and Toru Dutt's what is a biography and where they belong to Bengal. Unit 7. Now I'm speaking on unit 7. Okay. So Derozio's nationalism and poetry, and he stands his national beliefs and attitudes with students in Hindu college and was instrumental in raising the young Bengal movement. Toru's family has converted to Christianity when she was very young. Dutt grew up in France and England. Though she later came back to Bengal, she experimented with conventional verse, used Indian subject and themes, and left behind an unfinished novel. So you can see that Toru Dutt is well educated, and her parents got migrated to different parts of different parts of the world, and her family got converted into Christianity, and she wrote poetry which is more reflection towards nature and life. Finally, she died very young. She left the world very young. And within that period of time, her poetry influenced many youngsters because it was fresh and her ideas were fresh. Okay. So let us see what her poetry is. A lot of goes with Henry as well. You can see the 7th unit. Are you there with me? Can someone see what is the page number? Here for me it is 47. 2 19th century poets, Henry Derozio and Toru Dutt. Unit 7.
43.
43.
Very good. 43,
40.
right? Yes. From 43, you can read innately how Toru is important, because between East and West, especially I'm going back to Henry, last chapters, we can see what lot of comparison is there between P.B. Shelley and Henry Derozio. Now we are going to Toru Dutt. I cannot explain. We cannot go through line by line because time is a constraint. I want you to read and enjoy. This is not only for the examination point of view, but also you are growing as a person when you are reading literature. I'm again requesting all of you. You grow as a person when you read literature, when you understand literature, when you apply the literature in your life. You feel very solace, remember. You feel very solace. You feel very relieved. You feel very broad. You become, you don't want to judge the issue. You become very, very neutral and you enjoy the life. That's the reason you should read the textbooks. Okay. So to become a better person, you should read the textbook. Of course, for the examination point of view, you should write as per the requirement of the questions, but read the literature. It gives you immense pleasure. It gives you wisdom as well. Not only the information and knowledge, but wisdom comes to you. You no more judge a person just because they are reacting to you. The better thing happens to a person who reads and writes is they respond, they don't react. Do you find is there any difference between reaction and response? Do you know what is response and what is reaction?
Yes, ma'am. Reaction means you might react in a positive or a negative manner, and that would be like kind of immediately. And response means you can take your time and give your response, maybe at any given point of time, maybe after a little time later.
Definitely. Yes, that's very good. I mean, accurate as well. So when you, without any thought, many times someone is blaming and immediately you react to them. No, I'm not doing. Or yes, I'm doing. Or you don't have that much of logic and reasoning when you're doing reaction, right? It's action and the reaction is happening there. When you respond, you think about it, whether I should respond to this person or not. Whether is it right or wrong? Or should I just shout if someone is shouting at others, immediately other person also starts shouting. Can we sit and talk? That is response. I don't want to agree with you. You can send it very gently, but at the same time firm, but you are not shouting. When the shouting happens, only when you lose your patience. When you lose the patience, we don't have the logic. So they'll always respond. Literature gives you that kind of space that you don't react normally. You respond to them. Even you show pity for the people who are, someone may tell some, general examples in any of our personal life and professional life. People will be gossiping at others, right? Like X is so-and-so, Y is so-and-so, Z is so-and-so. See, this number one person has got so much of time on gossiping X, Y, and Z. But the B person is sensible enough that he don't want to listen about X, Y, Z, because B is worried about her own life or his own life. So if A comes and go on gossiping, whether to ignore that person or to respond to that person or react to that person. See, generally what people do is, oh, isn't happened. Oh, isn't so? Something like that. We show the enthusiasm. Other person gets, he'll be more or she will be more interested to gossip again and again. If you ignore them, there is no point that we should always encourage the gossip, because in no way it is going to please, or in no way it is especially a kind of waste of time. But generally what happens in the way of the world is every person is interested in others. Whether you sit, you eat, you dress, you go out, everyone is interested in the others. So this kind of information, when you get from other person, which is nonsensical, or sometimes which is not correct for us, please ignore. And that comes to you only when you read extensively, not only for the examination point of view. I'm motivating you to read the textbook. You will enjoy it, okay? I really promise you that you'll be enjoying the literature. Okay, let me go back to this point. Toru Dutt Between East and West. Her first volume, A Chef. Okay, we are running out of time. I just give you a glance of this. A chef gleaned in French fields, included some pieces of her elder sister, some translations from the French. The volume was fairly well received, and she later learned Sanskrit as to go back to her Indian roots. She also published Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan. At the time of her death, she left an unfinished novel, Bianca. In 2006, Chandani Locke put together her collected prose and poetry, Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan. There is a tension between Hinduism and Christianity in Dutt's upbringing, because they are Hindu born, but they adopted Christianity for different sake. And a lot of anxieties was there in her own family and upbringing, because see, science and religion many times cannot go hand in hand. Science is more related to logic and reasoning. It is a demand for reason. Whereas religion goes with faith of an individual, faith of a collective consciousness. Because my mother said, because my father said, because my grandfather, my grandmother, my ancestors, they are doing, so I am obliged to do. So if you are faithful, then you are going to be, you are not questioning that. Questioning is rationality. Questioning is more logic oriented. So science believes in logic and reasoning, whereas religion is faith and belief. So both the systems are not completely different, but many a times it get a clash. When it comes to Hinduism, because Toru was born in Hinduism, and the family traditions were there, but still in spite of all that, her family got converted into Christianity. So a lot of anxieties were there in her family and even in her upbringing. For example, I'll tell you a very small example, you'll get connected. See, when you go to the Christian colleges or Christian minority, why we call this? Because in 70s, 80s, they started convents. This word is very, very prominent, convent schools, right? Where the Christian people who are church-based, they used to teach the students in the medium of English. And so the English is very important, and the medium is English. So along with that, they used to take care of the society. Not that religion is bad there, but the influence of Christianity was there in the education system. When we come back to the family, again, the children are from different families. It can be from Islam, or it can be from Parsi or Hindu. So whatever the rituals goes inside the family may not be the same that we see in the school. The child will be in a dilemma, and this dilemma goes on for the long time, for a long period of time. That is what we can see in Toru Dutt. That's our casuality, or even in her detailed contents of Hinduism or modes of exotizing India. She presents the story of Lakshman Rekha in the Lakshman, that of an iconic Hindu wife is Savitri. This is an attempt to make India appealing to her Western audience. See, this is an iconic Savitri. Savitri of Aurobindo is different from Savitri that we listen now. So who are the iconic figures in Indian mythology, especially when it comes to women, is Sita, Savitri. These are all like very pious and very, very faithful wives and great women who tolerated everything. But the notion is questioned nowadays. But on those days, they were very iconic figures. Even today, when you come back, the rationality is not there, but the religion always, you uphold them in a very, very different manner. We can see that how Sita, Savitri, all people. So at that point of time, do remember, it is 1820. Toru Dutt was in 1820. So to uphold the kind of a spirit of independent women, Toru Dutt portrayed Savitri for her Western audience, not Indian audience. Okay, because she was in France and England for a certain time. So there's a very interesting read about Toru Dutt, and please do read Toru Dutt. It is important for all of us to understand the perception of 1800 and 1820s, 30s, and 40s. What kind of ideology they carried in the Indian poetry, especially when it comes to Indian English poem. Okay. Yes. So now the time is up, and almost 4:05. Just I'm winding up the unit here. So this unit looked to two major early poets in Indian English, Henry Desrosiers and Toru Dutt. And Desrosiers was discussed as nationalist poet, but we also noted, despite his nationalism, is a critical of Indian society flaws as well. So it's good to show the flaws also. It should not be superstition. And just because someone is pointing out, we can't boast about all the things that are good in India, right? Definitely there are a lot of flaws. There are a lot of lacuna is there. The scientific temperament was not there. And lot of very, very innocent ignorance. So people are exploited in one way or the other. And religion was prominent on those days. So these are all very, very, very strong points that Desrosiers pointed out. So we can see a nationalist as well. Toru Dutt was examined as a poet caught between the East and West. She exoticizes India, but is critical of it as well. She adopts the Western modes, but returns to her native traditions. So there is a lot of anxiety and dilemma in her writing when she was portraying the Indian character, especially from mythology. She upholded the values in the Western concept. So you can see different kinds of characterization as well, right? So with these few words today, I think we completed 2 units, especially when it comes to poems, Toru Dutt and Henry Desrosiers. Are you with me, my dear students, my dear friends here? I can see 20 people.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah, thank you so much. Please do read. Please do read every day. Maybe you'll get bored when I tell you read, write, read, write, read, write. Then only you'll be a literature student. Okay. I think assignments we gave 20, almost 1 month back to the student service branch. Very soon, or maybe today or tomorrow, I don't know, because tomorrow I'll find out. It's not a working day for tomorrow for the university, but we will be working. I had to find out with the administrative block what happened, why it is getting delayed. But you'll be soon getting that assignments. Don't worry about that. And write and finish as soon as possible and prepare well. You are second year student. Hardly you have 1 month or 1.5 months left for your examinations. Are you listening to me?
Yes,
Only
yes.
1.5 month. In the month of May, you will be having exams. May 1st or 2nd week. Prepare well for that. Read, write. Okay. Last week, I gave some homework for you. Anyone completed that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Daksha, ma'am. And thank you so much for that reiteration. Please do focus. I'm very happy many of you are regularly listening to me and regularly reading. But I want you have to encourage even your friends also to do the same. Okay?
Okay,
Okay,
Yeah,
madam.
maybe this next class will be at 4:30.
Thank you, madam.
thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
ma'am.
Thank you.
ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
That's a good question.